documenting the Nigerian story.
Hello, my name is Chamon Dabengandra. Welcome to Business Highlights on Trust TV. Before we begin the show, I would like to wish every Nigerian brother and sister out there a very happy Independence Day. As Nigeria celebrates its 62nd Independence Day, my wish for the country is that we find a sense of unity by embracing our differences in tribe, culture and religion, and accept that before all else, we are Nigerians. Now, in the spirit of Independence Day, we are taking an analytical look at Nigeria's economy in 1960 versus 2020 in order to understand what could possibly have gone wrong in the Nigerian economy to make it take such a downturn. Now, today, Nigerians are struggling to eat, insecurity is on the rise, poverty rates and unemployment rates have skyrocketed. At this point, can we reverse the trend in the nearest future, and what will it take? Today in the studio, we're going to be having two different guests from two different generations. Though we're still waiting for one, let me introduce my guest that is currently in the studio. Yes, and he is the former NDIC director and the MD and CEO of Maregi Associates, Dr. Mohammed Hussaini. You're welcome to the show. Happy Independence Day.
Happy Independence to everybody. Happy Independence to Nigeria.
How are you celebrating the day so far?
Well, I went for my usual jogging and I celebrated with my friends.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear that.
Celebrate.
Yes. Yeah. All right, so let me get what you think about this day. So many Nigerians out there are of the opinion that there isn't much to celebrate apart from, just being alive. But what do you think? Are there any notable achievements that we've somehow missed, that have fallen through the cracks?
First and foremost, life must be celebrated at any point in time. We got our independence in the 60s. I'm sure you are very much aware of that. Sir Tafawa Balewa came in. He was the prime minister. Now, I want to divide these 62 years into three compartments. First, you have Sir Balewa and Shagari. So let's give that 20 years plus. And then the second generation, of course, you have Aguiyi Ironsi, Thomas Aguiyi Ironsi. The military came in for another 20 plus years. They were not prepared. We all know that, because it's not the duty of a military to come in. Then after that 20 years, you now come in and then find out the last 20 years has been an extremely, very, very, very challenging to every Nigerian. Mm-hmm. The first 20 years, you could give it a semblance of they were trying.
All right, so before you continue on that, we do have a few figures that we would like to share with Nigerians, and that is, of course, Nigeria in 1960 versus Nigeria in 2020. So the population rate in 1960 was 45.1 million versus today, where we have 217.583 million. Inflation rate as of then was 5.44%, and today we have 20.52%. Unemployment 4.12%, and of course this is coming from 1991, as this was the early figure that we could actually find. Today there is 33.3%, though there is also a debate around this figure since it's been a while since the National Bureau of Statistics has actually updated this figure. And the poverty rate as of 1960 was 15%. Today we're looking at 42.6%. The exchange rate, let me just point out that Nigeria adopted the Naira as of 1973, January 1st, and then it was 0 Naira 66 kobo to the dollar, and today it's 735 Naira to the dollar. Youth unemployment, once again, the earliest was 1991. It was 9.81%. Today we have 42.5%. The misery index, unfortunately, we couldn't find, which is funny because the misery index was actually developed in around the 1960s. But anyway, today the misery index currently sits at 71%. Dr. Hussaini, what do you think about these figures here?
Well, in terms of comparison analysis, 1960 to date, I would say the basis for comparison is not there, because like you rightly pointed out, population was 45.1. Today, 200 plus. And then the economy was a little bit managed compared to what it is today. Virtually during the first generation, 20 years, like I said, Tafawa Balewa to the distance, they did their best, although they could have done a little bit better in terms of management of this thing. But as the years go by, we ran into, unfortunately, the Dutch disease, what we call the oil came in. And immediately the oil came in, it's like, we're there. Everything like stopped. The issue of diversification was just not there. We couldn't devise anything because you remember very well, our former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, said Nigeria problem was not about money, it's how to manage it. And then eventually we squandered everything. There was no diversification. Meanwhile, if you look at OPEC countries that Nigeria started with, virtually almost all of them were diversifying, including those ones that even have more oil or less oil than Nigeria, were busy diversifying. Libya diversified to so much to the extent that they had shares in Fiat in Italy. Libya has the shares in virtually all the places. Saudi Arabia, which you know, Aramco. So in the 60s and 70s and so on, these things were going on. Meanwhile, our managers never think futuristically in terms of, can we continue with one monolithic this thing. The agriculture that was ending was like giving. And then we started importing virtually everything importable. We never cared about our tomorrow. Meanwhile, educational this thing was going down the drain. So these beautiful statistics that you have there, in as beautiful as they are, in fact, some people may even tell you that it's not too accurate. Because if you look at the unemployment rate, which is
33.3.
33.3%, believe me sincerely, I know it's much higher than that. So what do we do? That is the issue.
Yes, of course, that's a very good question. And earlier on, you had said that, you know, the issue back then wasn't Nigeria making money. There was the money. We were making the money.
Even the president then, General Yakubu Gowon, said it and alluded to the fact that it's Nigerian money. Nigeria's problem was not about money. Because
and today it's an issue of revenue generation.
Which has virtually dried up. FX is no more there. See, we met here last week in respect of
the MPC meeting.
The MPC meeting. Virtually, FX has dried up. Central Bank right now does not have near 1/4 of what is needed.
All right, so we did go out to speak to Nigerians to see where their own minds were regarding the Independence Day celebration, what they think about the Nigerian economy today, and what they hope to see in the nearest future. So let's take a listen.
The Nigerian's economic is visible. Everybody knows. Even the infants can testify to that. Even the Pampers that was sold 50 naira is now 150 naira. Triple times the before. The economy is in shambles, is deteriorating every day. Come to talk about insecurity, lack of job opportunity from the side of youths. That's what brought about insecurity in Nigeria. So what goes wrong from the beginning is that we brought people that we think they are economically viable. They come and throw us into the dustbin. They pack all our money, they steal all our money in dollars, in billions of dollars. One person is stealing hundreds of billions of nairas while the children of the poor are there roaming about. So that's what brought about inflation. They allocate money where it is not necessary. I hope to see a change that will impact the life of the common man. You understand? I hope to see the change that Nigerians always desire, where unity is the best, you understand? Economy cannot thrive without the unity, you understand that? So when our unity is being restored, the economy will automatically restore itself, whereby anybody will come and be doing business in a peaceful environment.
Nigerian economy is moving according to the international forecasters who are forecasting it for us, because for a country that doesn't even know her population, it is the international community that are telling us, look, this is your population, this is how you are growing, this is your GDP. You know, it shows that we don't even know where we are going at this age. The system we are operating, unless they terminate this system, because it's not democracy, it's just a system that produces autocratic leaders who are disguising under the cover of democracy, but they are not doing democracy. Secondly, if we want our economy to grow, we have to devise our own local way of thinking. We have to have people that have innovation and creativity. Otherwise, we cannot move anywhere, because I cannot see a reason why countries like India, countries like Canada that even being ruled by Britain under the Queen Elizabeth, countries like Venezuela and Brazil, today that are our contemporary, today they have moved far, far ahead of us, simply because of leadership, good leadership that they have. But here in this country, we will bring a very good program, but at the end of the day, you will find that because of corruption and bribery, nothing is working. In fact, at this age, I'm disappointed, because today I'm 60. I'm 60 at this age. Since my childhood, we have been having different leaders. They will tell us, look, we are the one who knows the problem of this country. Don't worry, we are going to solve it. People keep on recycling themselves under a new, different ringing tune, coming from different institutions, either from the military, or from police, or from the civil service, or from every background, coming out to contest to tell you that they know the problem of this country. They are going to solve it. But at the end of the day, you find that they will end up stealing money, spending money, wasting money.
Nigeria's economy then and now, even the 2-year-old child knows that it's fantastic. It used to be very fair, but now nothing is easy to come by now. You cannot buy anything that we used to buy in the market. People are suffering, families, parents are dying, children are crying. I don't know what it's all about, but all I want to say is, if it continues like this in the next 1 year, carnivorous, that is, people will be starting eating other people's flesh, because nothing is affordable now, nothing, except for the big people. What do you want me to discuss? The economy is bad. Not that there's no money, but people are sidelining this money, taking it to, using money as if it is theirs. People are it's one-sidedly used. People are doing it, using money as if they are the makers of this money. So I mean, all types of businesses, no one is moving again. No one goes and buys and sells again. What you buy today, you cannot buy tomorrow at the same price. It is just corruption. I want to see a new Nigeria first. A new Nigeria, somebody that will rectify all these problems. We are dying. Nigerians are dying. Let us start from the leadership. From the leadership, if God's hand touches Nigeria, I think He will give us a very good leader that will take us to a new Nigeria, that will eradicate corruption, so that this money will be used for what they are made for.
All right, you're welcome back from that video. We'll get to see what our guests in the studio think, but we do have our second guest in the studio, and his name is John Bosco Ezenwa, and he's a business consultant. You're welcome to the show. Let me start off with you, John Bosco. What do you think about the responses that we got from our fellow Nigerians out there, Nigeria's economy then versus today?
Thank you very much, Shaman. Thank you for inviting me to the studio, and happy independence.
Same to you.
So interestingly, what the respondent has talked about is true. That's how they understand it. And Nigeria now and then is different. We can't compare really, because currently Nigeria has improved in terms of human capacity development. You have new urban professionals, new urban cities, and taste for new goods. And of course, one of the respondents mentioned that we can't calculate our own GDP and the rest of them. Well, it's his own opinion really, but really we do calculate our GDP based on certain goods and certain services we offer. But you see, there's a huge change. The economy has not really diversified up until now. We were agri-based in the 60s up until the 70s, discovery of oil in commercial quantity, and then moved into oil. And currently we are roaming around technology, we are exploring tech, climate change and the rest of them. We anticipate a Nigeria that will be better. We anticipate a Nigeria that the economy will bloom, especially when we incorporate the MSMEs and the SMEs, when they can be able to get loans from banks without a huge collateral and at single digit. Inflation will continue, given that we are part of the global village. Yeah. There's a huge play in what's happening anywhere in the world. The war in Ukraine has contributed to a lot of changes in Africa and elsewhere, even in America. So we anticipate a great Nigeria. We anticipate the economic change, especially when we have change in correct leadership. That's very important.
All right, you seem very optimistic, and I actually like that. Earlier on, I had asked Dr. Hussaini here what notable achievements that we've had so far in the Nigerian economy, and you've actually, mentioned a few, especially our move towards the tech industry. But agriculture, let's even take a look at the Nigerian flag, the green, white, green. The green actually represents agriculture for us. Yeah. Because it was something that we were known for. A lot of the agricultural produce that we were seeing around the world actually came out of Nigeria. It was one of the highest things that were traded before the discovery of oil within Nigeria. So would you say that the discovery of crude oil actually made, should I say lazy? Is that the word that I should use? But in a way, they sort of, shifted everything else aside to focus on crude oil. And even till now, there's still a very high dependency on crude oil. Now, Dr. Hussaini, I would like to get your comments on that.
I think I've spoken enough on that. First and foremost, we never planned to diversify. Everything was based on oil. But like I said before, countries like Libya, Saudi Arabia were investing outside the oil this thing, even before the tech issues that is currently the in thing came about. These countries were less educated than Nigerians, because if you look at the 13 or so OPEC countries compared to Nigeria, is one of the highest leading in terms of education. But honestly, we were not futuristic enough in terms of thinking different. And then we ran into what everybody knows they call Dutch disease. You got this thing, nobody knew how the money evaporated. And today we are in trouble. If we depended on agriculture, which is the mainstay, any country that can feed itself well, that country will be number one. Feeding, agriculture, education. That will even tackle the issue of insecurity. Because if you are at home, you mentioned the issue of unemployment, all right? If people were productively, even at a mega level, people will be able to, why will you go under this thing? If you have 50,000 naira per month, you wouldn't go and waylay anybody to say you want to do this thing. But you have, how many universities do we have now? Almost about 300 or something like that universities, or even more, all right? Pre-independence, you only have in Nsukka, Ibadan, Ahmadu Bello, then later Ife came in. So, and what is the population? The whole the older generation, they had less than 30,000. Today, if you look at the population of even one university, take Ahmadu Bello or BUK or Ibadan or Nsukka, some of them have more than 20,000 students. True. So it's a massive problem. 60s until 80s, the problem were manageable, because you have people that, well, they themselves have their own fault, but they were more futuristic than what we have today. Corruption was a little bit less. Then Murtala came in, everything went haywire. That's when civil servants began to, these issues of corruption began to rear itself. Because you were thinking, tomorrow I'm going to be fired. Mr. Eisenhower is here tomorrow. Well, he is not too sure whether he will be in the office. Therefore, people started taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
People like Alison Aida, Philip Ashodu, and many, many, many others. Some of these people retired. At the end of the day, they didn't have an accommodation themselves. They were living in government quarters. And this is the problem. And for us to address this issue, we need a lot of reorientation, because everything now is based on money, 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 money. And as long as that, and the system, like one of the interviewers said, I think Alhaji Abubakar or so, the system we're operating now, honestly, is not going to take Nigeria anywhere unless we address that issue. The current issue is not good for Nigeria.
All right. So now you brought up the issue of education. Now, of course, you said we have about 300 schools out there, universities out there. You know, there are different research institutions. There are different, institutions that have been created to develop or to find knowledge regarding certain things. Like, for example, agriculture is one of them. There's been several fundings that have gone into it, but somehow it's been argued that there's an issue with technical know-how. There's an issue with knowledge. Is this really the problem that we're facing? Is this why no matter how many policies the country puts out there, no matter how many programs, no matter how many research institutions that are developed, it almost seems like we're still lagging back? So it's like taking 10 steps forward and then 10 steps backward.
20 steps backward.
20 steps backward. There we go.
I think the problem is we plan, but we don't execute. If you plan and you don't execute or implement, it's useless. And this is why other countries today, right? Where is Vision 2010?
Vision 2020, Vision 2050.
Where are they? The papers are lying down in probably Ministry of Finance or SGF office or head of service. Whereas if you take countries like Malaysia, South Korea, and so on and so forth, even Saudi Arabia, they have Vision 2030, and they stick to it, and they implement it. So implementation or execution is the key, not writing things down. If you write things down and you don't implement it or execute it, it's useless.
All right, John Bosco, let's get your opinion on that.
Interestingly, Sharon, as I mentioned earlier, as Nigeria continues to get older, of course, we embrace technology and the rest of them. It's a systems problem. That's where we are in the systems problem. And so this is where systems thinking is very important. And what happens in terms of systems thinking is where you're able to put everything together in perspective. Number one, our educational system. We have the polytechnics, universities, centers of research, and all of that. What is happening? There's a missing link. The missing link is interdisciplinary entrepreneurship. What is happening in that end is the university should know its place. It's the head, it's the thinking cap for the nation, while the polytechnics are the arms, getting things done. But then there must be entrepreneurship that needs to happen. Entrepreneurship is where the SMEs and every other business can take up businesses from there and also reach the populace. You can have sustainability, not when we depend on policies. Our policies are good, perfect. Countries are copying our policies on a daily, but we don't get to execute. We need a leadership that is futuristic, leadership that plans the next 20, 50 years. We always have 2010, Vision 2010. At one time it was, now when we're talking about the SDGs. What have we done? What's our achievement? Where are the milestones? That's why the younger generation really, we're enjoying all of this discourse. But then I must tell you that we've been able to push ourselves. We've been able to take up our own enterprise and develop them. If you look at what's happening in the tech space and also in the green energy space, the young ones are doing a whole lot with or without government help. And just recently, when we are done getting these things done, government comes in with their policies and taxation. Where was government when we were building those enterprises? Where was government when we were doing all of this? We live in our country, We love our country. We're here for our country. We want to build a country that is different from that our peers have done or our parents have done. So
all right, so we don't have a lot of time. Time is not our friend right now. But let me pose this question before we round up. Now, does the economy need a total overhaul, and what sort of a structure should we be working with? John Bosco, let me allow you to take that one, and then we'll hear from Dr. Hussaini.
The economy needs complete overhaul. Number one, we need to believe, first and foremost, is a buying and ownership that we are building this country for ourselves. What the young people are doing, building this country, building enterprise for themselves, while we are looking at other people everywhere in the world. Internet age has put us together. The economy needs total overhaul. That is where system thinking happens. How does the military connect to education? How does education connect to the marketplace? How does the marketplace connect to governance? Now we need what's happening in the environment, in governance, in social infrastructure. This is a complete overhaul. We need to have a long-term plan for this, and so that in the next generation we can stand shoulder to shoulder with every other citizen from every nation, will not be ashamed, with our head held high, with all our achievement. Overhaul, I say overhaul.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Hussaini, what do you think?
I agree with my brother here. What he says, I think I'm in agreement with what he has said. But Shaman, let's look at it. There's what we call neoliberal economic policies. Yeah. Neoliberal economic policies cannot, even if you bring John Keynes, Milton Keynes here, or Milton Friedman here, any of them, these are the leading 20th century economies, bring them to Nigeria, and you want to implement neoliberal economic policies, third world will not develop. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. That was like a sound of warning right there. Please take note. We do have to follow certain procedures and make things right. We do need to develop a new structure in order to make Nigeria actually work, to have a good economy that can cater to its people. All right, so we have come to the end of our show for today. And before we go, I would like to say to every Nigerian out there that being patriotic is not about waving a green, white, green flag right now. It's about you coming out come 2023 and casting your vote. You deserve a good leader. You deserve great leaders, leaders that will take this country to where it actually needs to be, to provide comfort and, provide the necessities that you actually need. And you can't do that when you're sitting at home. Well, my name is Chamun Dabeng, and happy Independence Day to everyone.